we'll have a couple more people kind of join us in a minute here. But of course, this webinar today is on grading like a pro in Google Classroom. If you didn't have a chance yet, please go ahead and do a sign in here if you're attending this live on the first slide of the slideshow. To get the slideshow, you have to type in this short link here, bit.ly/gradepro into your address bar. That'll get you this whole slideshow for today. There's a few links and pictures and things in here for you to refer back to. So go ahead and sign in real quick if you haven't done so already. That'll let me get a certificate of attendance over to you.
I did sign in, so I
okay,
should be.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Dan. I'm a technology integration specialist at NeoNet. So I do lots of teacher tech training PD. There's my email, dneeson@neonet.org. If you have any more questions as you kind of digest all this stuff from today, feel free to shoot me an email. That's the best way to get a hold of me. On training.neonet.org, this is our website for more technology integration training. You can either go into the training menu or the calendar for more trainings that are coming up. Basically, every Wednesday I have a training session to check out. Some of them are short, some of them are long. Kind of just depends on what they are for the day. So feel free to kind of explore that website at your leisure. So let's go ahead and get into it now. So here's our to-do list for today. I was a high school social studies teacher, and this is how I like to organize things for my lessons each day. I would do these to-do lists, and these were just our lesson objectives. And so here's ours. And at the end today, we'll basically check off each of these things on our to-do list. So our first thing is we'll go into grading with Screencastify and Google Classroom. We'll also go into Google Forms, grade importing into Google Classroom. Then we'll take a quick look at rubrics and also how to sync Google Classroom with ProgressBook Gradebook. And then we'll take a quick peek at grading in the Google Classroom mobile app. So first part here is grading with Screencastify and Google Classroom. So basically what we can do is we can leave effective, concise, and practical feedback for videos for our students using Screencastify and Google Classroom. Essentially, the idea is we're going to record Screencastify videos and leave the links that go right to those videos on our students' work. All right. If you need a little bit of extra help with Screencastify, this link here on slide number 7 will get you to a separate slideshow that kind of gets you started with Screencastify if you need help with that. But with that being said, let's actually go and jump into it. So I'm going to go off into my Google Classroom here. And what we'll do is we'll create a kind of like a mock assignment here. We'll have our student, or we'll have a dummy student, do the little worksheet for us. And then we will grade it, and we're going to leave some video feedback with Screencastify. So I'm going to go into my remote learning class here, and I'll go ahead and make a assignment real quick for our students. So I'll just call this worksheet, today's the 21st, worksheet 421. I'll create a new one here, brand new Google Doc. And I'm just going to make a real simple activity. And maybe I'll come in here and do like a little picture. So I'll search the web for a picture real quick. Now maybe I'll do like a map of USA. And I'll drop this picture in here. So maybe this is for like a social studies class, or if you're studying some geography or something like that. 421. And there's our little picture in here. And we'll put question 1. And we'll say what state is directly south. Actually, what states, let's do that, are directly south of Kansas. All right. And here's one pro tip that I always love to share. If you are doing like a digital worksheet in Google Classroom with like a Google Doc like this, you're going to want to leave a real clear simple, easy to see spot where students are going to respond. An easy way to do that is if we come under the Insert tab and create a 1-by-1 table. It's going to create a little box here for us, and we can even change the color of this box too. So maybe I'll do like a nice, like kind of pale yellow here, and this helps students kind of know a nice clear spot where they're supposed to answer. All right, so there's our worksheet. Of course, I could add more to this, but for our purposes, that's good enough. All right, so there I have my worksheet in here. I'll make my point values. Maybe I'll make this one worth 10 points. I'll make it due tomorrow at 3 p.m. And I'll put it under my homework topic. Okay, and we'll go ahead and assign that. All right, and then once that's assigned, I'm going to jump over to my student account. So that process was pretty simple. If you're comfortable with Google Classroom, that whole process right there is probably nothing new. So I'm going to jump over to the student side real quick here. And we're going to go into his Google Classroom. So this is one of my fake students here. We're going to go into his Google Classroom here and do that little map worksheet that we just did. And we're going to complete it real quick, and then we'll jump back as the teacher again and give him some video feedback. So here comes our student. He's going to come in here and answer these questions. And okay, so he'll come in and what was South of Kansas, and he puts Oklahoma. Oh, come on, let me type. Oh, I made a mistake. I made a goofy. One thing I forgot to do, I forgot to turn on editing access for students. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Allow them to edit and save. I was going so quick that I forgot a pretty important step there. Let me come in here and give this a refresh. So I always check. You always check before you hit that assign button. All right, so now we're able to edit now. Notice if you had a sharp eye there, you may have noticed that when I was in the teacher side, I didn't have the option to make a copy for each student. That option's only going to be there the first time that you are posting the assignment. So if you messed up like I did here and you forgot to set it to make a copy for each student, that's only going to show up the first time. If that happens, delete the whole assignment and you kind of have to just start over again. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. But for our purposes, it's good enough. So we'll put in Oklahoma, and that's good enough. Student will come over here and he'll mark it as done. Perfect. And we'll come back to the teacher side again. And so back on the teacher side here, we will go ahead and take a look at our turned in here. So we see our turned in. Of course, when you are wanting to check if students have been turning in their work, of course, all we have to do is look on the classwork page here, and we can look through and filter through each assignment, and we'll see how many have been turned in and how many have been assigned. If we go over to the grades tab up at the top, we're also going to start to see things that have come in here as well. So you'll see all your scores and everything if they've come in or if we've graded them in the grades tab as well. But the easiest way is if we just come into the classwork, find the assignment, click on it, and then click on either turned in or assigned. If you click on either one, they'll both take it basically to the same place. All right, so then here's Andrew's assignment, and I want to go ahead and look at his work here. All right, so one thing that we can do is actually, let me jump back out here. And this is going to work best if we make an assignment that is make a copy for each student. So I'm going to run through this real quick again and recreate that activity. Oh, hang on one second. I'm going to remake this because it works best when we actually have it set to make a copy. I'll put this as version 2. All right. Add from our Google Drive. And since I just had that activity, it should come up in my recent. Yep, there it is. And let me erase this part so our students aren't keeping that stuff there. There we go. And the reason that I You may have noticed the student's work shows up here is because I had one shared document that both the student and the teacher were using. And this can be good if you want all your students to really like collaborate in one spot. But if you're wanting to see independent work from each of your students, you're going to want to make a separate copy for each student. All right, this is one step I forgot to do last time. There we go. I set it to make a copy for each student. I'll put this back at 10 points and set it for that due date again. And we'll hit assign. Okay. Now back on the student side, we're going to go and redo that worksheet real quick again. So here's this worksheet for us to do. It loads for us here. And we'll have Andrew's version here. Andrew's our fake dummy student here. And now he'll come in here and answer the question again here. So Oklahoma. And of course, since we are doing a copied version where we have each student has their own version, this button is going to appear in the Google Docs. If you have a Google Doc assignment that you give them for, and you have it set to make a copy for each of them, you'll have this turn in button that shows up here, and we'll say turn in, and we'll click turn in. And so now back on the teacher side yet again here. Here's our version 2. Now we can go ahead and come into turned in here and we can look at each student's individual work. If you wanted to look at the document that was shared by everybody, the original one that I made that was not set to make a copy, you can still look at it. You won't be able to see each student's individual each student's like individual comments unless you look at your revision history. Okay, so this whole idea here that I'm getting into here is using Screencastify as well as a way to kind of add some grading, some feedback to your Google Classroom grading. So as I'm sure you know, we have the capability to come in here and leave some comments on our students' work. So if we say good, but there's one more. That's a nice comment to have. That's no problem with that at all. But what if we want to have like a little video that students can watch along with that kind of gives them an extra like hint or gives them some more ideas? So what instead we can do is we can come up and click on our Screencastify icon here, and we'll go ahead and launch it. So we're going to choose desktop with microphone. We're going to have countdown, sure. And we don't need any system audio. And we'll go ahead and click on record. On which screen we're going to record from. The reason I have two screens here is because I have a second monitor set up. If you only have one screen, you'll only see one. Hey, Andrew, Mr. Neeson here. Here is a little bit of feedback for your little worksheet here. So, of course, we have Oklahoma is directly south of Kansas, but what else is south? Texas is directly south of it, too. Don't forget about that. All right. And just like that, let me go ahead and stop this recording now. And just like that, we have a little extra quick recorded video that took 20 seconds to make, something like that, right? And all we have to do now is if we want to share this with our student, leave it as feedback, we can come up here and click on this copy shareable link. It's copied to our clipboard rather, and we can come over here and leave it as a comment bubble, just like the other comments that we have left. All right. So if we want to leave a little comment here, we can just add it to maybe as a reply here. Paste that in there. Reply. Oh, I lost my cursor. And so now when a student comes in to look at their feedback, they won't only see just that regular text comment. They'll have a link here for a video that they can go and watch. So let me jump into the student side of things. So let me give it a refresh here. So the student can come in and look at his work, and he'll see those comments that I left for him. Oh, I have to turn in his, or return his work to him rather. Let's give him his 10 points. Forgot to do that. So I'll return that to Andrew there. There we go. Now he sees his grade. And we'll also, if we click on the document again here, we'll see the comment that I left for him. And here's that link to that video. So then he can come in here and watch this little comment video that I left for him. And just like that, you can have a little bit of feedback. Now, these things that you make here, these videos, you don't have to necessarily make them for each one of your students. Imagine if you made just kind of like some general videos for kind of commonly missed questions or things that you kind of see students missing a lot, or if you just need to really accentuate a certain point. So what you could do instead is just do the same thing, is make a Screencastify video again, but ones that are just more general. And the cool thing too is you wouldn't have to jump out to Screencastify to find the link for each one. We can use the comment bank here in Google Classroom to save that link along with a comment. So we'll add a comment bank here, and maybe we'll say map skills or something like that. And we'll paste in that link. And now just like that, we have a way to kind of always get back to that video. And again, that can save you a whole bunch of time. And students might look at a video feedback, especially if you have a lot of stuff to say. If you might be really just wasting your time if you write out or type out like a whole paragraph, giving them a ton of feedback and everything. They might not actually read all that feedback. So if you create a 30-second video saying all the same stuff, they might actually watch that. All right. So of course, if we want to do that, like along with with a comment bubble over here, I'm gonna give it my browser a refresh. I keep losing my cursor here. And if I want to leave a comment bubble here, and I'll make one. I'll show you how to use the comment bank. So if we have something highlighted and we click on that comment bubble again, if we do the pound or the hashtag symbol and type the first letter or two of whichever thing is in your comment bank, so like in this case, map skills, there's that link along with whatever other comment that I have in there, and that comment is still going to be there. That has that link for the video that students can refer back to. All right. So again, with your Screencastify school video account, you don't have to worry about like filling up space or anything. You're going to have unlimited videos. You can make as many as you want. If you've used Screencastify in the past, you get 5 minutes per video, which is plenty of time to give students some feedback. And even if it's not, you can make multiple videos if you need be. Okay. Hopefully that's all making sense. Back on the slideshow here, here's just basically the step-by-step for you. You basically will go into a student's submitted work, turn on Screencastify and leave your feedback in video form and post a link to that video on the student's work. All right, and you can even leave it as part of a comment bank so you can refer back to those videos over and over again. All right, so now we'll go into Google Forms grade importing. This one is a little simpler, not as complex as the last one here. So this one's pretty easy. So what we need to do is we'll import grades from a Google Form quiz into Google Classroom. So here's the basic process here. We'll create an assignment in Google Classroom. We'll attach the Google Form quiz from your drive. Then we'll turn on this button that says grade importing. And then after all your students take the quiz, you'll go back into Google Classroom and go into the Gradebook and choose Import Grades. All right, so let me take you through that whole process here. So we'll go back over into our classroom here. And I have a quiz pre-made in here, so I'll just pull from my Google Drive. So I already have a little math quiz that I've made. We'll add from Google Drive, and just as a note, this is only going to work if you do add from Google Drive, okay? So that just kind of keep that in mind. Then we'll come in and I'll search for my math quiz. I'm gonna go in here. Math quiz. And I think it was this one. And now see, we have this button now that says grade importing, all right? As long as this is on, basically whatever score that you have set up in that Google form. So let's say this Google form, I have it set to auto grade and all that fun stuff, and it's worth 5 points, okay? We don't necessarily even have to worry about what point value we give it over here because this grade importing is gonna basically overwrite whatever scores students get in the Google Classroom gradebook over here. All right. As another thing you may have noticed, we also have this little button here that says locked mode for Chromebooks. Just one side note about that. If you are using locked mode for Chromebooks, they have to be taken, the Google Form quiz would then have to be taken on a school issued Chromebook. So if a student has their own personal computer or their dad's MacBook or whatever, it's not going to allow them to take it. They have to be on the school issued Chromebook. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind. All right, and then we'll go ahead and assign that one out. And we'll jump back over into our student account one more time here. And we'll take a peek and just run through that little quiz real quick. We'll come into classwork, and then here's that math quiz for us. And again, as the student here, he'll come in and do this quiz for us here. Eight, yep, and that one, okay. 4 plus 9, 15, 2 plus 5 is 7. Yeah, I know how to do math. Oh, yep, forgot my name. All right. And so the student has finished their assignment. Let me go back over to the teacher side. If we come over here and, oops, I went into the wrong assignment here. Here's the math quiz. If I come over here into that quiz, that Google Form quiz, now I have this button over here that says import grades. We'll click on that. Whatever scores that students were given will be imported into here. And so here, this student received a 6 out of 8. And just like that, all of our grades are turned in basically right from that Google Form. All right. The one thing I recommend is still double checking as the teacher, double checking a Google Form. If you have it set to auto grade, do a quick once over to make sure the Google Form didn't mark anything wrong that was actually right. So give that a quick once over. When you go into the Google Form, let me go into the edit side of it. We can come into responses and we're able to look at all of our responses from our students and make sure that the ones that they got marked wrong were actually marked wrong for the correct reason. Any changes that we need to make can be made so. So like on this one, maybe this one was actually supposed to be right. Then we hit save, and then they get that point. All right. If you do make any changes, it's not going to be continuously updated here. Each time that you want to sync the grades between the Google Form and your Google Classroom here, we do have to do import over here again. All right. And notice it just went from 6 to 7. Okay, because I made that one change as the teacher here. All right. And what last thing we want to do is check off those students and then click on return. That way, that grade is now finalized, and a student can look at their score, and it will also show up over here in your grade book. All right, there's that math quiz, and there's his scores. All right, and of course, back on the student side, he would be able to see his scores as well. Okay. Any questions so far? I know we're in such a large and such a large and fun group right now. Hopefully everything's making sense. Any questions
Yes,
so far? All
everything's
right.
good so far.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'll just keep on rolling then. Um, Next, we'll take a look at Google Classroom rubrics. So this is something that came out just fairly recently, a few months ago. So Google Classroom implemented the addition here of rubrics. And the cool thing is you can create, and if you want to reuse rubrics over and over again in your Google Classroom, and this makes grading a little bit easier too. So you can just have all your different criteria and different point values for each different criterion, and then you can just basically check off each different box for how a student performed, and then that grade is thrown into that assignment. So what we'll do is while we're creating an assignment, we'll just choose that rubric button. And then we're able to make as many different criteria as we'd like. We can choose like ascending or descending order. And then the rubric's going to show up like we have in this picture here while you're grading. And you basically just pick which level they reached according to the rubric. Okay. One thing I'll say before we go into the demo for it here is make sure your rubric is worth the same amount as the assignment. That's one thing you'll have to do. Otherwise, the score on the rubric will basically overwrite the assignment score and it treats it like a percentage. So one thing that we kind of saw here, let me actually go into one of my assignments over here. Oh, let me go in here. There we go. One thing we'll see is if you have different point values, it's going to basically treat it as almost like a percentage. Let me go into this assignment. I think I had it for, no, not that one. This one. Here we go. And this is what it'll basically do. So I had this assignment worth 10 points, but the rubric was only worth 3 points. And you'll notice if I come in here and I make some changes, so if I give them 3 points, they get 3 out of 3 or 100%. If I change this maybe to 1 out of 3 points, notice what it does here. It's going to change it to 33 1/3. Okay, so it's going to basically do it like as a percentage if they're separate, which is fine if that's what you want it to do. But if you just want it to be a straightforward, this is how many points this assignment's actually worth, it's just based on the rubric. What you'll want to do is make the rubric value match the same amount as the whole assignment value. All right, so let's take you through now how to do all that. So we'll just create a brand new assignment again here. Let's just do that. We'll create an assignment. Rubric assignment. And we'll add a document from our Google Drive again, doesn't really matter. And there we go. We'll just use that same map worksheet that we did before. Set it to make a copy for each student. And let's do this. We're going to make this one worth 9 points. The idea is we're going to have 3 different criteria worth 3 different criteria, and there's 3 different levels for each criteria. So 3 times 3 is 9. So we'll come over here and we'll make this worth 9 points. We'll set our due date and all that fun stuff again. So I'll just make it due tomorrow. Sure. We'll put it under classwork. And then now we'll come over to this rubric button, which we didn't do before. And notice there's 3 buttons here. We have create rubric, reuse rubric, or import from sheets. For our purposes, we'll do create. And this will let us make a brand new one from scratch. And we'll go ahead and put this rubric together now. So essentially what we're going to do is we can turn on or off scoring. Again, scoring, this is where you can actually have the point values be transferred to the scores, the total scores for the assignment. Okay, so if you want this on, if you want to actually have basically the rubric do your calculations for you, you want to have this on. All right, then you can choose if you want the rubric to be sorted by ascending or descending. I personally like to have it ascending. And then we have our first criterion here. So maybe we'll have like one for grammar and spelling. And so how many mistakes there? Criteria. Yeah. And then for each level here, we will have them go, maybe we'll have 3 levels, like I said. So we'll have level 1, level 2, and level 3. All right. So level 1, that's our lowest level. Maybe this is our needs improvement. And this is maybe, 4 or more mistakes. This one will just be okay. And maybe this one is 2 to 3 mistakes. Oops. And then good, which is 1 or 6. All right. And just like that, we have our first criteria made. If we want to make a whole nother category here, we just go down to the bottom here and do add criterion. And maybe for this one, we do like content. Maybe any mistakes in content. And we'll do the same thing. Give it 3 levels. 1, 2, and a 3. You also notice that you can also do negative points. You may have seen that too. You can also do negative points. And then for any mistakes, we'll do same thing. We'll do needs improvement. 4 plus mistakes. And I don't want to type all this stuff, so I'm just going to do some copying and pasting here. And last one. A little copy and pasting there. And for our last one here, turned in on time. Self-explanatory. So late. So this was 24 hours or more late. 2 semi-late. Semi-late if it's less. And then for 3 points, on time. Okay, so there's our whole rubric built and ready here. We'll just come up to the top right and click on save. And now this rubric is here saved for us. So we'll go ahead and assign this one out again. And once this is assigned out for our students, they will be able to see the rubric. That's one important thing to know. So students will know what is expected of them. So let me come in here again to our students assignment, or our students Google Classroom here. And what did I put it under? I think I put it under classwork. There we go, rubric assignment. And so what students will see, if he comes into view assignment, he'll also see the rubric here, and he can look at what these what the different criteria are. So he knows, okay, if I make 4 or more grammar mistakes, I'm only going to get 1 point. I can see what I have to do for each one of these criteria. Okay, and then as a student, I can come in here and do the assignment just like normal. And so, he'll put in, oops, Texas and Oklahoma. Okay, and he'll turn it in. And he'll submit that in. And of course, as the student here, he can't really do anything with the rubric. Just as a side note here, he can't really do anything with it. He can look at it, but he can't like give himself points or anything like that. All right, so let me go back to the teacher side yet again here. And as the teacher, will come in and we'll grade this with the rubric this time. And so here we go. Oh, I looked at that the wrong way. Go to turned in and then go into that. And so now, as I'm sure you noticed over here on the right-hand side, now we have a rubric, or a rubric fitted in here. So we can grade through this just like normal. We can leave comments. We can leave like a screencastify feedback video if we want. We can do all that same stuff. And of course, we can do this rubric now. And if we expand each section here, we can come in here and look at each criteria. All right, so grammar, it looked pretty good. He made 2 mistakes though, so I'm gonna give him 2 points for that. Content, he did good. He didn't miss any. He did turn it in on time, so I'll give him that full points there. So he got 8 out of 9 points. And just like that, I don't have to do any math or anything as I'm grading. I just completely use the rubric to do all the math for me. And I'll click on return. And just like that, I'm done grading. All right. So that is a really cool thing now. I love the rubrics. And the one really awesome thing is if I want to use that rubric again, if I'm making another new assignment here, I can come over here and give this a, oh, let me attach in a file here. And if I want to reuse that rubric, so I don't have to make it all over again, as you kind of saw, it can be very time consuming to sit there and make the rubric. We can come in here and do reuse rubric. And we can come in here and find whichever one that we want. So here's that rubric, the one from the rubric assignment. And we can even do a preview if we need to. It's like, okay, we can do a little preview on that one. Aha, that is the one I want. And I can do select. And you also could do select and edit. So if you just want to change like a little thing on there, and just like that, we can reuse that rubric without having to sit there and remake something from scratch over and over again. All right, so those things could be a huge time saver. And not to mention, rubrics are just good practice. They let students know exactly what they need to do to get their best grade. They know where they messed up if you're giving them feedback on the rubric. All right, and then with that said, let's keep on rolling here. Over here into Google Classroom with Progress Book. Here on slide number 16 is a video for you. Again, this one is for your reference later because this one kind of has a lot of steps to it as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this works here. So you can watch this video at your leisure here. Again, it's just kind of for your reference later. All right, so what we'll do is we'll actually start in our Progress Book Gradebook here. We don't even have to start in Google Classroom, so we'll go ahead and log in to Progress Book. And the process isn't too bad. There's just like a lot of steps and just different things you have to keep in mind. So from our Progress Book Gradebook here, we'll just choose whichever one of our classes we're going to go into. So I'll go into this German class here. And here's all of our students, of course, just like normal. The one thing for me, and my page will look a little bit different than yours. All my students here are all fake students, and they do not match with the students that I have over in my Google Classroom. All right, so we're going to see an error that comes up in a little bit. For you, your students that are in here, that are in this roster, are going to be the same students that are in your Google Classroom roster because they're the same real students. All these dummy students are just fake made up accounts. Okay, so we'll see an error in just a little bit, so just don't be thrown off by that. All right, so this is all we have to do. It's actually not too bad. We just have a couple things to keep in mind. So we'll go here and about halfway down the page under assignments and marks, we'll find Google Classroom Sync. And once we get signed in here, we'll choose what assignment type we're gonna do. Depending on, some schools have guidelines for what to do with their different assignment types. Whatever your school tells you to do that. If they're okay with you creating a separate assignment type specifically for Google Classroom assignments, you can do that. Or if they only allow you to have like two types of assignments, like one for in-class work and one for tests and quizzes, and that's it, that's totally fine. Just pick whichever one kind of fits with you there. Okay, so then you pick your assignment type. I'll just pick Google Classroom. And here in the middle of the page, we're going to pick which class we're going to pull in here. The one I was demoing earlier is our remote learning class. And here's that rubric assignment that we just made. And maybe I want to do that math quiz as well. I could even do that worksheet version 2 because I messed up the first one. I can even pull that one in as well. We don't have to do this one at a time. We don't have to do a whole bunch of copying and pasting or anything like that. All right, we can pick all the assignments that we want, and then we'll come up to the top right and do next. And This is where our error comes in. For you, you'll see all this stuff will be blue, and you're not going to have these errors over here under message. What you'll see is under the gradebook column here, you'll see the score that was originally. It's probably just going to be a 0, and then your Google grade. All right, so the scores that students got from Google Classroom are going to show up under this Google column. All right, and basically Google is going to fill in all those scores. All right, so whatever score students got on that rubric assignment or that math quiz or whatever it is are going to show up. All we have to do is click on sync, and all these marks are going to be drawn in for us. All right, notice it creates a separate table here for each assignment. So here's that first assignment, that rubric assignment. If I scroll down, there's that math quiz, and then there's that worksheet version 2. All right, and again, because I just have fake students under mark here, it's all blank. For you, since you have real students, numbers would be showing up here. Okay, and that's all you have to do. Now, a couple of notes about this. When you are doing this Google Classroom Sync, it works pretty much the same way as the Google Forms importing grades thing works. It's not going to sync unless you tell it to. Okay, it's not going to automatically sync at a certain time each day. It doesn't really work that way. So a good kind of rule of thumb, a kind of a good way to do this is just kind of make it a habit to maybe at the end of the day, at the end of the week, maybe you come through and do all your Google Classroom syncing into Gradebook. All right, so maybe just make it, at the end of the day on Friday before you go home for the weekend, or walk all the way from your home office to your living room, whatever you're doing. Before you make that long journey, you do your Google Classroom progress book sync. Okay, and again, that process is real quick. You click on whichever class you need to go into, choose Google Classroom Sync, choose whichever assignment type that you're going to use, pick which Google Classroom you're going to be pulling from, which assignments you are going to choose, which one you're going to sync. Then choose that sync button. This is just confirming which students are going to be synced, and then you choose sync. Okay, and just like that, it comes in. That was the whole process right there. So it doesn't take really long at all. All right, and like I said, this video here on slide 16 is a reference for you guys to refer back to if you need. All right, coming down to the end here, we'll take a quick look at the grading in the mobile app. So the really cool thing is you can also grade with the mobile app. So if you have like an iPad or a smartphone, and you can get the Google Classroom app on your phone. And the cool thing is you can do basically all your grading and stuff from there as well. So if I come in here and I'll open up my Google Classroom app, there it is. Not sure how clearly this is going to show up here for us. The cool thing that we can do here when you're grading on the mobile app is you can draw on assignments while grading. All right, you really don't have the option of doing like the screencastify things um, uh, or doing like the comment bank, things like that when you're grading on mobile. Instead, what you do is if you go in to grade something, it makes a PDF copy of what the student submitted, and then you have the ability to just draw with your finger right on top, so you can leave some feedback that way. So let me actually kind of show you. I'll try to show you as best I can here. We'll come into an assignment here. So here I am. Let me see if this kind of works semi-clearly. We'll come into an assignment here that students turned in for this class. We'll go into this assignment for us, and we'll pick which student we're going to go into. And then we'll click on that student's assignment. It kind of just shows a little Google Drive icon for it, or the Google Docs icon for it. Then it opens up a PDF version of it. And with the little pencil button up in the top right, now we're able to leave some feedback. And we can just draw right on top of it. So if I want to leave them some feedback that says good, 10 out of 10, I can just draw that right on there. Okay, and then I can go ahead and save this with the 3 dots up in the top right. Hopefully that's kind of coming in clearly, hopefully. And we'll go ahead and save that for our student. All right. Now, for the student's perspective, if they want to come back and look at feedback from there, the process is exactly the same for them. They're going to see it pretty much the exact same way. That was a separate classroom. Let me see which one it was. Okay, that was for this class. And it was for this one. And notice now I have two different papers. This bottom one was the original one that the student turned in, and here's the PDF version oh, that's not the right thing. Was it this one? Oh, here we go. It's going to be under your work over here if they go into it. And here is the PDF version of my feedback that I just drew as the teacher. All right. So students are still going to be able to see it from the mobile app. So if you're not able to get to a regular computer, or if you just want to sit on the couch and do some grading that way, you can still kind of grade that way. It's kind of an extra little bonus there for you. All right. There are some extra things that you can do in the mobile app as well that are kind of cool. There is also you can do all the same functions basically. You can go in and look at assignments and look at your gradebook and create assignments and all that fun stuff. There's also a pick a student option in there. In the people tab, you click on this little blocks icon there, and it will let you just randomly pick a student. So it's kind of a fun thing if you're in the middle of a live remote class. If you're like in a Zoom class or a Google Meet class, you can kind of pick on a student randomly. As long as they're enrolled in your Google Classroom, you can randomly pick on a student from that. It's kind of like the old popsicle stick in a cup thing, but instead of that, it's kind of digital. It's kind of a fun thing. All right, and so that's going to pretty much bring us down to the end of our session today here. So here's our to-do list from the beginning. So of course, we started with looking at Screencastify and Google Classroom, kind of combining those two together, leaving some feedback videos for our students. And also the really handy thing is saving those links as comment bank comments. So you can just keep reusing them over and over again. You can also use Google Forms and grade importing, so you don't have to sit there and do a whole bunch of typing in and copying and pasting and all that fun stuff. Instead, you can just do grade importing. So whatever point value your Google form was, you can make that reflect in the Google Classroom gradebook. Then we took a look at rubrics for leaving students some clear criterion for what they need to do to get their best score possible. Then we looked at Google Classroom Progress Book Sync for syncing our Google Classroom gradebook in with Progress Book, and it's a little easier than you think. It's not too bad. And then at last, we went through grading on the mobile app with kind of using your finger to draw stuff out so you can kind of grade from the couch, right? Okay, so that's going to pretty much bring us down to the end. Thanks so much for coming to our quick little after-school webinar here today. If you're so inclined, there's a quick survey linked in the top right of the last slide here. If you're so inclined, in the top right, we'll get you that survey. As long as you signed in, I have your email, so I'll send you a certificate of attendance for today. Any other questions, feel free to shout them out now. Other than that, my email is there on the last slide as well. Feel free to reach out with any other questions. And check out training.neonet.org for more webinars and trainings and resources and all that fun stuff if you need. And with that said, thanks so much for coming, and I'll see you in the next one.